Meet Dr. Carmen, facilitator, educator, and period empowerment guide. She is a dynamic woman committed to helping girls and women embrace the menstrual cycle as a guide for self-care with a PhD in psychology and expertise in mental wellness and social behavior. Dr. Carmen creates a safe environment for compassionate parents like us to gain the tools for moving beyond fears about the essence of their daughters, adolescents, feeling confident and supporting her during this important developmental transition and having courageous conversations about taboo topic so that they can foster a strong, trusting child-parent bond that lasts a lifetime. Good morning, Dr. Carmen.
Woo, Ingrid, thank you so much for that amazing introduction. And thank you so much for having me.
How are you doing today?
I am happy to be here with you.
Well, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for joining me. I have 3 questions for you. Are you ready?
Yes, let's go.
Okay. My first question to you, Dr. Carmen, is how can parents actively contribute to contributing by creating a supportive environment for their daughters with autism during the holiday season, especially when it comes to understanding and addressing mental health?
Yeah, such an important question. The holidays can be filled with lots of frenzy, right? So it's important for parents to, in general, to let their kids know, give them a little heads up around, what to expect, to begin talking about it very early so that there ideally aren't any surprises. And so when you add in the layer of the menstrual cycle, potentially, it's really, really important, again, to begin educating early. So ideally, if the daughter has started her menstrual cycle already, just begin, that education really, really early. There's so many tips that parents can implement. One that's been really, really useful for people with autism is called the social story. And so this is, again, is something that you do in advance with your child to prepare them. But you can create a social story around any sort of lived experience. So in this context, yes. So in this context, parents could create a social story that might be entitled, how will it feel when I get my period? And so as a part of that social story, you have very, very, factual, to the point language in there. As a part of this social story, it can include statements like, as my body changes, I will get my period. When I get my period, blood comes out through my vagina. And it's really, really important that we use actual terms, no euphemisms. we want
No
them,
kiki, no pee-pee, no
none of
lee-lee,
that. It
nothing.
doesn't
Yeah.
do them any good. It really doesn't do them any good. And I'm a firm believer in planting seeds of body positivity. And so those euphemisms don't do that. They really, really don't. So it's really, really important that our young people know the terms of their anatomy. So, using these social stories is so very, very helpful. And another thing that can really be useful is visual supports. This is something I did with my son when he was like in preschool, and I would use them to help him figure out what to do in the morning to take care of himself. So you could have just like a little 8x11 piece of paper, and the visual supports has pictures on it for what to do, right? So you can have a picture of a period care product, which I'll talk about that in just a second. You can have a picture of step 1 on, how to change it. So you might have 4 pictures, on this one piece of paper. And I find that, the kids really love like going to their visual support, because ideally it's something that's up on a wall or a board, and they look at it and they look at the first picture and they go do it and they come back and they look at the second picture. So those visual supports are just so, so important. And then going back to this question that you asked, Ingrid, about, how, especially during, the holidays and understanding and addressing mental health or menstrual health, which actually does relate to mental health. It's really, really important that parents help their daughters to identify the period care products that are going to work best for them. These days, I was, an adolescent way, way long ago, and our period care products have changed and for the better, which is so amazing. But each person is going to have certain products that they gravitate toward that are better, best for them. I have found that for young people, because when you think of period care products, what they are for are collecting and disposing of our flow, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so there are ways that we can collect our flow inside of our body, and then there are ways that we collect our flow outside of our body. So for young people, I have found that it's just so much easier to begin with those period care products that collect our flow outside of our body. So that's going to be like our pad. That's going to be like panty liner. That's going to be like now these wonderful period underwear, period proof underwear, panties. And there are even period apparel lines, which are so fantastic with leggings and shorts. I mean, it's just really, really amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So I have found that it's best to start there in terms of educating our young people. And then, sometimes, particularly Ingrid, we remember, when we were young and, the pads that we were using, especially the ones that are disposable, because there are reusable pads, which I could talk about that too. But
Sure.
the disposable ones have that little piece of paper that you peel off to
Yes.
expose the adhesive part, right? Well,
Mm-hmm.
for some people, that ripping off of that little piece of paper, the noise that it makes could be disturbing. It could
Yeah,
be
for a neurodivergent person, definitely. Like it would really single you out in the bathroom where people are quiet and you hear that, in
yeah,
addition to definitely.
yeah.
It needs a
So,
silencer.
well, I was going to say that there are period care products that are reusable that don't
Mm-hmm.
have that noise, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there are pads, particularly for the environment, eco-friendly. You actually reuse them. There are liners that are reusable, and they have, instead of that little adhesive strip that you peel off, they are secured in the underwear by a snap or a couple
Mm-hmm.
snaps that snap underneath. And so
Yes,
you don't
yes.
have that, that noise that could be,
That noise or that moving around.
yeah.
Yeah,
So those are some of the tips that come to mind.
that's very brilliant. I really wish I would have had someone like you to guide me through my younger years. Are you ready for my second question?
Yes.
And if people want to have this discussion with you, where can we find you, Dr. Carmen? What is your website?
Yes. Well, they can find me on www.periodofempowerment.com, www.periodofempowerment.com. But Ingrid, and thank you so much for asking this question. What I really encourage parents to do is to, have an area of support. So whether that's with you, in terms of with autism, but they really want the support in terms of supporting daughters with the changes that they will experience during adolescence, then they can also join our Empower Teen Daughters Facebook group, and that's bit.ly/Empower Teen Daughters. So there are a couple places where you can find me.
Thank you. So for those of you who are joining us right now, I am speaking to Dr. Carmen, facilitator, educator, and period empowerment guide. And I'm Ingrid Windsor Joseph, neurodivergent autism coach. And we are proceeding to the second question. And the second question that I have for you, Dr. Carmen, is in the context of families with children on the autism spectrum, which key strategies can fathers employ to navigate conversations about periods and menstrual health with sensitivity and effectiveness?
Oh, this is such an important question.
Thank
Because
you.
dads, yes, dads, fathers definitely need to be involved in this process. And, Ingrid, this is something that I could answer this question, I could take up 2 hours to answer this question. And I know we don't have that much time. So what I will say is that it is important for fathers to educate themselves first. Educate themselves beforehand. And it's important for everybody to know, all parents to know, that when it comes to adolescence and puberty, these changes are happening when daughters are 9, 10, 11, 12. And for all parents, a lot of times they're thinking, oh, my daughter's only 9. I don't have to deal with this right now. I don't have to talk, I have some years before I have to handle this. When reality, you want to start early with having age appropriate conversations. The earlier, the better. And unfortunately, when it comes to the changes that people who menstruate will experience during this adolescence process, we're often socialized to keep menstruation a secret, especially from those who don't menstruate, right? Because their languaging around it is that it's embarrassing, and so that causes a lot of anxiety. But because of, keeping it a secret, that means that, people who don't menstruate, boys and dads, they grow up in the dark. They grow up not understanding anything about the process, which is a disservice to everybody. On one end, there are, boys who, may tease or what have you because they don't understand, and it's very easy for us to talk negatively and think negatively about things that we don't understand. And so
Absolutely.
that's a problem, right?
Mm.
That's a problem. The other thing that I want to emphasize, which is why this question is so important, is that in general, during adolescence, that is a time, a lot of times, where fathers and daughters their relationship can start to weaken or feel a little fragile. And the more dads lean into the changes of the essence of adolescence, as I like to call it, the more they lean into that, the better the father-daughter relationship is going to be. So I highly encourage, dads to get educated. I have a Dad's Puberty Playbook Masterclass, which gets dads jump started, into that, and then we can continue for more support. But dads have to get educated. But the problem, there are so many problems. So I'm so glad you asked this question, Ingrid, is that there currently is not a model for fathers to parent in this way, right? So a lot of times, dads will feel like, oh, this isn't my place. This is just something for the moms to do. I don't know anything about it anyway. So, I'm going to be hands off. And so that is not the approach for the benefit of our daughters. I was just speaking with a family therapist recently who confirms everything that I just said. She said during this time, time period of adolescence, is so important that dads lean in, because dads actually have a huge impact on daughters' self-esteem and
Of
confidence.
course, of course. I was a daddy's girl, so yes, totally relatable.
Yeah. What's next?
Well, I mean, this is really fascinating. And for those of you who are tuning in, we hope that you comment, like, share, subscribe. I'm Ingrid Windsor Joseph, and this is Dr. Carmen. I'm a neurodivergent coach, and I just think that autism is a spectrum, but there's also a spectrum of topics to discuss within the context of autism. And, I just think that this topic is amazing, and I'm very thankful that Dr. Carmen is here with us today. And we're going to lean into our third question, which is, can you share practical insights and communication tips for parents of daughters in order to empower them in fostering a calmer home environment during the holidays, specifically addressing the unique challenges faced by families of children who have autism?
Yes, again, another important question. So first, I would encourage families, parents to think about what do they want the feeling of their home or the experience to be for the holidays? Like, have a plan for that, right? Really, really get clear about that sort of vision. Like, do I want it to be something that's calm? Do I want lots of people over? Do I want it to be something where we're doing, the hosting, or do I want to go somewhere else? Am I doing the cooking? Like, really, really have a solid vision for that, because once you have a clear vision, then you'll be able to effectively prepare your children, your daughters, for what's coming, for what to expect, right? Because, a lot of times for children who are neurodivergent, we don't like surprises. You don't like surprises, right? We want to know, what's coming. We want to know how things are sort of going to operate. And so having that clear vision first, and then begin talking about it. Like, you could use the social story, like I mentioned earlier, and it could be preparing for the holidays or fun for the holidays. And what's nice is that each social story can have its own title. So once you prepare your vision for the holiday season, that vision can be the guide for you naming your social story. So maybe your social story is peace during the holidays or whatever it is. And then, you get to have some thoughts about what you're going to include in the social story. So again, depending on your vision, an example might be, we'll have lots of people over. Here's where you go to this room if you feel, excited or anxious, or there will be lots of food, whatever it is, right? It's going to depend on your vision. And so as a parent, you can have some thoughts about that. And then you can also invite your children in to contribute to the social story as well. So they have some buy-in and some ownership of it as well. And it's just so beautiful and connecting to be able to create it together. And it's something that could be posted, it could be posted in the bathroom or the child's room or wherever, right? And that you're continually going over that social story before, the day comes, whether it's Thanksgiving or Christmas or whatever you celebrate, right? Before that day comes, you're continually reading through, the social story together. And it just does so much to ground, because the repetition, right? The repetition helps that grounding process sometimes when, folks can get a little bit anxious. So I just love the social story.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, for me, like I have the rules for me. It's I call it crap. So C is for consistency, R is for repetition, A is for alignment, and P is for positioning with everything. And you are so right about that. We've had a wonderful time speaking to Dr. Carmen, facilitator, educator, and period empowerment guide, a dynamic, knowledgeable woman committed to helping girls and women embrace the menstrual cycle. I salute you, Dr. Carmen. I wish you the best. My name is Ingrid Windsor Joseph. I am your neurodivergent autism coach. I'm here to be of service to parents. What should I talk about next? Have a nice day. Signing off, Ingrid Windsor Joseph. Bye. Au revoir.